Alright, squad. It is reading hour with Mr. Vedder. I'm starting on page 49. If you want to pause this at any time, that could be smart. I think this will probably be about 30 minutes, 40 minutes. So if you need to pause at any time, I think that would make sense. Just save what time you are at so you know where to pick up. We've ended the first quarter of the year in terms of Melinda. Her friend Heather is still nice to her, but is asking her to help with all these projects that this other group called the Marthas is making her do to fit in. Her parents are on her butt because her grades are not so hot, because she's just not focusing in school. She has this kid, David Petrakis, in her science class and in her history class. What else is going on with Melinda? She sees this person or this object named It in the hallway. Not sure what that is about. And I think that's where we're at. All right, here we go. Second marking period. Go blank. Fill in the blank. The Ecology Club has won round 2. Sorry, page 49. We are no longer the Tigers because the name shows shocking disrespect for an endangered creature. I know, I'm shocked. The Ecology Club makes great posters. They laid out headlines from the sports page. Tigers ripped apart, tigers slaughtered, tigers killed, side by side with color photos of Bengal tigers with their skins peeled off. Effective. The Ecology Club has some good PR people. The football team would have protested, but the sad truth is that they've lost every game this season. They are happy not to be called the Tigers. Other teams called them Pussycats. Not manly. More than half the school signed a petition, and the tree huggers got letters of support from a bunch of outside groups and 3 Hollywood actors. They herd us into an assembly that is supposed to be a democratic forum to come up with a new school mascot. Who are we? We can't be the Buccaneers because pirates supported violence and discrimination against women. The kid who suggests the shoemakers in honor of an old moccasin factory is laughed out of the auditorium. Warriors insult Native Americans. I think overbearing Eurocentric patriarchs would be perfect, but I don't suggest it. Student Council is holding an election before winter break. Our choices: the bees, useful to agriculture, painful to cross; icebergs, in honor of our festive winter weather; hilltoppers, guaranteed to frighten opponents; wombats, no one knows if they're endangered. Closet space. My parents commanded me to stay after school every day for extra help from teachers. I agreed to stay after school. I hang out in my refurbished closet. It is shaping up nicely. The first thing to go is the mirror. It is screwed to the wall, so I cover it with a poster of Maya Angelou that the librarian gave me. She said Ms. Angelou is one of the greatest American writers. The poster was coming down because the school board banned one of her books. She must be a great writer if the school board is afraid of her. Maya Angelou's picture watches me while I sweep and mop the floor, while I scrub the shelves, while I chase spiders out of the corners. I do a little bit of work every day. It's like building a fort. I figure Maya would like it if I read in here, so I burn a few books from home. Mostly, I watch the scary movies playing on the inside of my eyelids. It is getting harder to talk. My throat is always sore, my lips raw. When I wake up in the morning, my jaws are clenched, so tight I have a headache. Sometimes my mouth relaxes around Heather, if we're alone. Every time I talk to my parents or a teacher, I sputter or freeze. What is wrong with me? It's like I have some kind of spastic laryngitis. I know my head isn't screwed on straight. I want to leave, transfer, warp myself to another galaxy. I want to confess everything, hand over the guilt and mistake and anger to someone else. There is a beast in my gut. I can hear it scraping away at the insides of my ribs. Even if I dump the memory, it will stay with me, staining me. My closet is a good thing, a quiet place that helps me through these thoughts inside my head where no one can hear them. She's got some issues here, Melinda. All together now. My Spanish teacher breaks the no English rule to tell us that we had better stop pretending we don't understand the homework assignments or we're all going to get detention. Then she repeats what she just said in Spanish, though it seems as if she tosses in a few extra phrases. I don't know why she hasn't figured it out yet. If she just taught us all the swear words the first day, we would have done whatever she wanted the rest of the year. Detention does not sound appealing. I do my homework. Choose 5 verbs and conjugate them. To translate, traducir, I tragicate. To flunk, fracasar. Yo am almost fracasarin. To hide, esconder. To escape, escapar. To forget, olvidar. Interesting. Just in case we forget that we are here to get a good foundation so we can go to college to live up to our potential, get a good job, live happily ever after, and go to Disney World, we have a job day. Like all things high school, it starts with a test of my desires and my dreams. Do I A, prefer to spend time with a large group of people, B, prefer to spend time with a small group of close friends, C, prefer to spend time with family, D, prefer to spend time alone? Am I A, helper, B, doer, C, planner, D, dreamer? If I were tied to railroad tracks and the 3:15 train to Rochester was ready to cut a path across my middle, would I A, scream for help, B, ask my little mice friends to chew through the ropes, C, remember that my favorite jeans were in the dryer and hopelessly wrinkled, D, close my eyes and pretend nothing was wrong? 200 questions later, I get my results. I should consider a career in forestry, firefighting, communications, mortuary science. Heather's results are clearer. She should be a nurse. It makes her jump up and down. Heather, this is the best. I know exactly what I'm going to be. I'll be a candy striper at a hospital this summer. Why don't you do it with me? I'll study real hard in biology and go to SU and get my RN. What a great plan. How could she know this? I don't know what I'm doing in the next 5 minutes. And she has the next 10 years figured out. I'm worried about making out of 9th grade alive. Then I'll think about a career path. Mr. Neck storms into class, a bull chasing 33 red flags. We slide into our seats. I think for sure he's going to explode, which he does, but in an unpredictable, faintly educational way. Immigration, he writes it on the board. I'm pretty sure he spelled it right. Mr. Neck, my family has been in this country for over 200 years. We built this place, fought in every war from the first one to the last one, paid taxes, and voted. A cartoon thought bubble forms over the heads of everyone in the class. Will this be on the test? Mr. Neck, so tell me why my son can't get a job. A few hands creep skyward. Mr. Neck ignores them. It is a pretend question. One he asks so he could give the answer. I relax. This is like when my father complains about his boss. The best thing to do is to stay awake and blink sympathetically. His son wanted to be a firefighter, but he didn't get the job. Mr. Neck is convinced that this is some kind of reverse discrimination. He says we should close our borders so that the real Americans can get the jobs they deserve. The job test said that I would be a good firefighter. I wonder if I could take a job away from Mr. Neck's son. I tune out and focus on my doodle, a pine tree. I've been trying to carve a linoleum block in art class. The problem with the block is that there is no way to correct mistakes. Every mistake I make is frozen in the picture, so I have to think ahead. Mr. Neck writes on the board again, debate. America should have closed her borders in 1900. That strikes a nerve, several nerves. I see kids counting backward on their fingers, trying to figure out when their grandparents or great-grandparents were born, when they came to America, if they would have made the neck cut. When they figure out that they would have been stuck in a country that hated them, or a place with no schools, or a place with no future, their hands shoot up. They beg to differ with Mr. Neck's learned opinion. I don't know where my family came from. Someplace cold, where they eat beans on Thursday and hang their wash on the line on Monday. I don't know how long we've been in America. We've been in this school district since I was in 1st grade. That must count for something. I start an apple tree. The arguments jump back and forth across the room. A few suck-ups quickly figure out which side Mr. Neck is squatting on, so they fight to throw out the foreigners. Anyone whose family immigrated in the last century has a story to tell about how hard their relatives worked, the contributions they make to the country, the taxes they pay. A member of the archery club tries to say that we are all foreigners and we should give the country back to the Native Americans, but she's buried under disagreement. Mr. Neck enjoys the noise until one kid challenges him directly. Brave kid. Maybe your son didn't get that job because he's not good enough, or he's lazy, or the other guy was better than him no matter his skin color. I think the white people who have been here for 200 years are the ones pulling down the country. They don't know how to work. They've had it too easy. The pro-immigration forces erupt in applause and hooting. Mr. Neck, you watch your mouth, mister. You are talking about my son. I don't want to hear any more from you. That's enough debate. Get your books out. The Neck is back in control. Showtime is over. I try to draw a branch coming out of a tree trunk for the 315th time. It looks so flat. A cheap, cruddy drawing. I have no idea how to make it come alive. I am so focused, I don't notice at first that David Petrakis, my lab partner, has stood up. The class stops talking. I put my pencil down. Mr. Neck, Mr. Petrakis, take your seat. David Petrakis is never, ever in trouble. He is the kid who wins perfect attendance records, who helps the staff chase down bugs in the computer files of report cards. I chew a hangnail on my pinky. What is he thinking? Has he flipped, finally cracked under the pressure of being smarter than everyone? David, if the class is debating, then each student has the right to say what's on his mind. Mr. Neck, I decide who talks in here. David, you open to debate. You can't close it just because it's not going your way. Mr. Neck, watch me. Take your seat, Mr. Petrakis. David, the Constitution does not recognize different classes of citizenship based on time spent living in the country. I am a citizen with the same rights as your son or you. As a citizen and a student, I am protesting the tone of this lesson as racist, intolerant, and xenophobic. Mr. Neck, sit your butt in that chair, Petrarchus, and watch your mouth. I try to get a debate going in here, and you people turn it into a race thing. Sit down or you're going to the principal. David stares at Mr. Neck, looks at the flag for a minute, then picks up his books and walks out of the room. He says a million things without saying a word. I make a note to study, David Petrarchus. I have never heard a more eloquent silence. The Pilgrims gave thanks at Thanksgiving because the Native Americans saved their sorry butts from starving. I give thanks at Thanksgiving because my mother finally goes to work and my father orders pizza. My normally harried, rushed mother, not harried, always turns into a strung-out retail junkie just before Turkey Day. It's because of Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, the start of the Christmas shopping season. If she doesn't sell 1 billion shirts and 12 million belts on Black Friday, the world will end. She lives on cigarettes and black coffee, swearing like a rap star and calculating spreadsheets in her head. The goals she sets for her store are totally unrealistic, and she knows it. She can't help herself. It's like watching someone caught in an electric fence, twitching and squirming and very stuck. Every year, just when she's stressed to the snapping point, she cooks Thanksgiving dinner. We beg her not to. We plead with her, send anonymous notes. She doesn't listen. I go to bed the night before Thanksgiving at 10 p.m. She's pounding on her laptop at the dining room table. When I come downstairs Thanksgiving morning, she's still there. I don't think she slept. She looks up at me in my robe and bunny slippers. Oh, damn, she says. The turkey. I peel potatoes while she gets out the frozen turkey, a hot bath. The windows fog up, separating us from the outside. I want to suggest that we have something else for dinner, spaghetti maybe, or sandwiches. But I know she wouldn't take it the right way. She hacks at the guts of the turkey with an ice pick to get out the bag of body parts. I'm impressed. Last year she cooked the bird with the bag inside. Cooking Thanksgiving dinner means something to her. It's like a holy obligation, part of what makes her a wife and mother. My family doesn't talk much, and we have nothing in common. But if my mother cooks a proper Thanksgiving dinner, it says we'll be a family for one more year. Kodak logic. Only in film commercials does stuff like that work. I finish the potatoes. She sends me to the TV to watch the parades. Dad stumbles downstairs. How is she? He asks before he goes in the kitchen. It's Thanksgiving, I say. Dad puts on the coat. Donuts? He asks. I nod. The phone rings. Mom answers. It's the store. Emergency number 1. I can go into the kitchen for a soda. She pours me orange juice, which I can't drink because it burns my scabby lips. The turkey floats in the sink. A 10-pound turkey iceberg. A turkey berg. I feel very much like the Titanic. Mom hangs up and chases me out with instructions to take a shower and clean my room. I soak in the bathtub. I fill my lungs with air and float on top of the water, then blow out my breath and sink to the bottom. I put my head underwater to listen to my heartbeat. The phone rings again. Emergency number 2. By the time I'm dressed, the parades are over and Dad is watching football. Confectioner's sugar dusts the stubble on his face. I don't like it when he bums around the house on holidays. I like my dad clean-shaven and wearing a suit. He motions for me to get out of the way so we can see the screen. Mom is on the phone. Emergency number 3! The long curly cord snakes around and around her thin body like a rope tying her to the stake. 2 drumstick tips poke out of an enormous pot of boiling water. She is boiling the frozen turkey. It's too big for the microwave, she explains. It will be thawed soon. She puts a finger in her free ear to concentrate on what the phone is telling her. I take a plain donut from the bag and go back to my room. 3 magazines later, my parents are arguing. Not a rip-roarer, a simmering argument, a few bubbles splashing on the stove. I want another donut, but don't feel like wading through the fight to get it. They retreat to their corners when the phone rings again. Here's my chance. Mom has the phone to her ear when I walk into the kitchen, but she isn't listening to it. She rubs the steam from the window and stares into the backyard. I join her at the sink. Dad strides across the backyard wearing an oven mitt and carrying the steaming turkey by one leg. He said it would take hours to thaw, mutters Mom. A tiny voice squeaks on the receiver. No, not you, Ted, she tells the phone. Dad lays the turkey on the chopping block and piles up his hatchet. Picks up his hatchet. Whack! The hatchet sticks in the frozen turkey flesh. He saws back and forth. Whack! A slice of frozen turkey slides to the ground. He picks it up and waves it at the window. Mom turns her back to him and tells Ted she's on her way. After Mom leaves for the store, Dad takes over the dinner. It's the principle of the thing. If he gripes about the way she handled Thanksgiving, then he has to prove he can do a better job. He brings in the butchered dirty meat and washes it in the sink with detergent and hot water. He rinses off the hatchet. Dad, Just like the old days, right, Melly? Fellow goes out into the woods and bring home dinner. This isn't so difficult. Cooking just requires some organization and the ability to read. Now get me the bread. I'm going to make real stuffing the way my mother used to. You don't need to help. Why don't you just do some homework, maybe some extra credit work to pull those grades up? I'll call you when dinner is ready. I think about studying, but it's a holiday, so I park myself on the living room couch and watch an old movie instead. I smell smoke twice, wince when glass shatters on the floor, and listen in on the phone to his conversation with the turkey hotline lady. She says turkey soup is the best part of Thanksgiving anyway. He calls me into the kitchen an hour later with the fake enthusiasm of a father who has screwed up big time. Bones are heaped on the cutting board. A pot of glue boils on the stove. Bits of gray, green, and yellow roll in the burping white paste. Dad, it's supposed to be soup. Me. Dad, it tasted a bit watery, so I kept adding thickener. I put in some corn and peas. Me. Dad, pulling wallet from his back pocket. Call for pizza. I'll get rid of this. I order double cheese, double mushroom. Dad buries the soup in the backyard next to our dead beagle, Ariel. But I want to make a memorial for our turkey. Never has a bird been so tortured to provide such a lousy dinner. I dig the bones out of the trash and bring them to art class. Mr. Freeman is thrilled. He tells me to work on the bird, but keep thinking tree. Mr. Freeman, you are on fire, Melinda. I can see it in your eyes. You are caught up in the meaning, in the subjectivity of the effect of commercialism on this holiday. This is wonderful. Wonderful. Be the bird. You are the bird. Sacrifice yourself to abandoned family values and canned yams. Whatever. At first I want to glue the bones together in a heap like firewood. Get it? Tree? Firewood? But Mr. Freeman sighs. I can do better, he says. I arrange the bones on a black piece of paper and try to draw a turkey around it. I don't need Mr. Freeman to tell me it stinks. By this point he has thrown himself back into his own painting and forgotten that we exist. He is working on a huge canvas. It started out bleak. A gutted building along a gray road on a rainy day. He spent a week painting dirty coins on the sidewalk, sweating to just get them right. He painted the faces of school board members peering out the windows of the building. Then he put bars on the windows and turned the building into a prison. His canvas is better than TV because you never know what is going to happen next. I crumple the paper and lay out the bones on the table. Melinda Sordino, anthropologist. I have unearthed the remains of a hideous sacrifice. The bell rings and I look at Mr. Freeman with puppy dog eyes. He says he'll call my Spanish teacher with some kind of excuse. I can stay for another class period. When Ivy hears this, she's begging permission to stay late, too. She's trying to conquer her fear of clowns. She's constructing some weird sculpture, a mask behind a clown's face. Mr. Freeman says yes to Ivy, too. She waggles her eyebrows at me and grins. By the time I figure out that this might be a good time to say something friendly to her, she is back at work. I glue the bones to a block of wood, arranging the skeleton like a museum exhibit. I find knives and forks in the odds and ends bin and glue them to it so it looks like they are attacking the bones. I take a step back. It isn't quite done. I rummage in the bin again and find a half-melted palm tree from a Lego set. It'll do. Mr. Freeman hangs on to everything a normal person would throw out. Happy Meal toys, lost playing cards, grocery store receipts, keys, dolls, a shawl shaker, trains. How does he know this stuff could be art? I pop the head off a Barbie doll and set it inside the turkey's body. That feels right. Ivy walks past and looks. She arches her left eyebrow and nods. I wave my hand and Mr. Freeman comes over to inspect. He almost faints with delight. Mr. Freeman, excellent, excellent. What does this say to you? Darn, I didn't know there would be a quiz. I clear my throat. I can't get any words out. It is too dry. I try again with a little cough. Mr. Freeman? Sore throat. Don't worry, it's going around. Want me to tell you what I see? I nod in relief. I see a girl caught in the remains of a holiday gone bad, with her flesh picked off day after day as the carcass cries out. The knife and fork are obviously middle-class sensibilities. The palm tree is a nice touch. A broken dream, perhaps? Plastic honeymoon? Deserted island? Oh, and if you put in a slice of pumpkin pie, it could be a deserted island. Cute. I laugh in spite of myself. I'm getting the hang of this. While Ivy and Mr. Freeman watch, I reach in and pluck out the Barbie head. I set it on top of the bony carcass. There's no place for the palm tree. I toss that aside. I move the knife and fork so they look like legs. I place a piece of tape over Barbie's mouth. Interesting. Me. Do you have any twigs, little branches? I could use them to make arms. Ivy opens her mouth to say something, then closes it again. Mr. Freeman studies my homely project. He doesn't say anything, and I'm afraid that he's pissed that I took out the palm tree. I'm going to sneeze. Maybe not. Ivy tries again. It's scary, she says, in a weird way. Not clown scary. How do I say this? Like you don't want to look at it too long. Good job, Mel. That's not the reaction I was hoping for, but I guess it was positive. She could have turned her nose up or ignored me, but she didn't. Mr. Freeman taps his chin. He looks way too serious to be an art teacher. He's making me nervous. Mr. Freeman, this has meaning. Pain. The bell rings. I leave before he can say more. Peeled and cored. We are studying fruit in biology. Mrs. Keene has spent a week teaching us the finer points of stamens and pistils, seed pods, and flowers. The earth is frozen. It snows lightly at night, but Mrs. Keene is determined to keep spring alive in her classroom. The back row sleeps until she points out that the apple trees need bees to reproduce. Reproduce is a trigger word for the back row. They have figured out it is related to sex. The lecture on pistils and stamens turns into a big ha-ha. Mrs. Keene has been teaching since the Middle Ages. It would take more than a row full of overheated hypothalamuses, hypothalami, to distract her from the day's lesson. She calmly proceeds to hands-on portion of the lab. Apples. We each get a Rome or a Cortland or a Macintosh and a plastic knife. We are instructed to dissect. The back row holds sword fights. Miss Keene silently writes their names on the blackboard along with their current grade. She takes 1 point off for every minute the sword fight continues. They go from low B's to very low C's before they figure out what is going on. They howl. Back row. That's not fair. You can't do that to us. You didn't give us a chance. She takes off another point. They saw their apples mutter, curse, old cow, stupid teacher. David Petrakis, my lab partner, cuts his apple into 8 equal wedges. He doesn't say a word. He's in the middle of a pre-med week. David can't make up his mind between pre-med and pre-law. 9th grade is a minor inconvenience to him. A Zit Cream commercial before the feature film of life. Apple smell soaks the air. One time when I was little, my parents took me to an orchard. Daddy set me high in an apple tree. It was like falling up into a storybook. Yummy and red and leaf and the branch not shaking a bit. Bees bumbled through the air, so stuffed with apple they couldn't be bothered to sting me. The sun warmed my hair, and a wind pushing my mother into my father's arms, and all the apple-picking parents and children smiled for a long, long minute. That's how biology class smells. I bite my apple. White teeth, red apple, hard juice, deep bite. David sputters. David, you're not supposed to do that. She'll kill you. You're supposed to cut it. Didn't you even listen? You'll lose points. Clearly, David missed the apple tree sitting requirement of childhood. I cut the rest of my apple into 4 fat pieces. My apple is 12 seeds. One of the seeds has split its shell and reaches a white hand upward. An apple tree growing from an apple, seed growing in an apple. I show the little plant seed to Mrs. Keene. She gives me extra credit. David rolls his eyes. Biology is so cool. First Amendment, second verse. Rebellion is in the air. We only have a week left before winter break. Students are getting away with murder, and the staff is too worn out to care. I hear rumors of eggnog in the faculty lounge. This revolutionary spirit is even breaking out in the social studies class. David Petrakis is fighting back about the freedom to speak thing. I get to class on time. I don't dare use the stolen late pass with Mr. Neck. David takes a seat in the front row and sets a tape recorder on his desk. As Mr. Neck opens his mouth to speak, David presses the play and record buttons at the same time, like a pianist hitting an opening chord. Mr. Neck teaches the class straight. We are galloping toward the Revolutionary War. He writes, "No taxation without representation" on the board. Very cool rhyming slogan. Too bad they didn't have bumper stickers back then. The colonists wanted a voice in the British Parliament. No one in power would listen to their complaints. The lecture is going to sound great on tape. Mr. Neck has prepared notes and everything. His voice is as smooth as a new poured road. No bumps. The tape will not be able to pick up the angry gleam in Mr. Neck's eyes, though. He glares at David the whole time he's speaking. If a teacher stared murder at me for 48 minutes, I'd turn into a puddle of melted jello. David stares back. The school office is the best place to go for gossip. I overhear the soundbite about the Petrakis' lawyer while I wait for another lecture from my guidance counselor about not living up to my potential. How does she know what my potential is? Potential for what? When she talks blah blah, I usually count the dots on her ceiling tiles. The guidance counselor is late today, so I sit invisible in the red plastic chair while the secretary brings a PTA volunteer up to warp speed on the Petrakis thing. David's parents hired a big, nasty, expensive lawyer. He is threatening to sue the school district and Mr. Neck for everything from incompetence to civil rights violations. David's tape recorder is allowed in class to document potential future violations. The secretary doesn't sound too upset at the idea that Mr. Neck could get canned. I bet she knows him personally. David must have mentioned the hairy eyeball treatment to his lawyer that afternoon, because the next day there is a video camera set up in the back of class. David Petrakis is my hero. I let Heather talk me into going to the winter assembly. She hates sitting alone almost as much as I do. The Marthas have issued an imperial invitation for her to sit with them. Have not issued. She's bummed, but she tries not to show it. In perfect Martha style, she wears a green sweater with a huge Santa face on it, red leggings, and fluffy boots. Too perfect. I refuse to wear anything seasonal. Heather gives me my Christmas present early. Bell earrings that chime when I turn my head. This means I'll have to get her something. Maybe I'll go wholesale and buy a friendship necklace. She's the friendship necklace type. The bells are a great choice. I shake my head all through Principal's speech to drown out his voice. The orchestra plays an unrecognizable tune. Heather says the school board won't let them perform Christmas carols or Hanukkah songs or Kwanzaa tunes. Instead of multicultural, we have no cultural. The high point of the assembly is the announcement of our new name and mascot. Principal reads the vote total. Bees, 3. Icebergs, 17. Hilltoppers, 1. Wombats, 32. The other 1547 votes were write-ins or ineligible. The Merryweather Wombats has a nice ring. We are the Wombats, woozy, wicked Wombats. Worried, withdrawn, weepy, weird Wombats. We pass Raven Cheerleader and Amber Cheerleader on the way to my bus. They wrinkle their brows as to struggle to rhyme Wombat. Democracy is a wonderful institution. School is out and there are 2 days until Christmas. Mom left a note saying I could put up the tree if I want. I drag the tree out of the basement and stand it in the driveway so I can sweep the dust and cobwebs off it with a broom. We leave the lights on it from year to year. All I have to do is hang the ornaments. There's something about Christmas that requires a rug rat. Little kids make Christmas fun. I wonder if we could rent one for the holidays. When I was tiny, we would buy a real tree and stay up late drinking our hot chocolate and finding just the right place for the special decorations. It seemed like my parents gave up the magic when I figured out the Santa lie. Maybe I shouldn't have told them I knew where the presents really came from. It broke their hearts. I bet they'd be divorced by now if I hadn't been born. I'm sure I was a huge disappointment. I'm not pretty or smart or athletic. I'm just like them, an ordinary drone dressed in secrets and lies. I can't believe we have to keep play acting until I graduate. It's a shame we can't just admit that we have failed family living, sell the house, split the money, and get on with our lives. Merry Christmas. I call Heather, but she's shopping. What would Heather do if she were here and the house didn't feel like Christmas? I will pretend to be Heather. I bundle up in geeky snow clothes, wrap a scarf around my head, and plunge into a snowdrift. The backyard is gorgeous. The trees and bushes are all wrapped in ice, reflecting sunlight into something powerful. I just have to make a snow angel. I tromp to an unmarked piece of snow and let myself fall backward. The scarf falls over my mouth as I wave my wings. The wet will smells like first grade, walking to school on a cold morning with my milk money jangling in the tips of my mittens. We lived in a different house then, a smaller house. Mom worked at the jewelry counter and was home after school. Dad had a nicer boss and talked all the time about buying a boat. I believed in Santa Claus. The wind stirs the branches overhead. My heart clangs like a fire bell. The scarf is too tight on my mouth. I pull it off to breathe. The moisture on my skin freezes. I want to make a wish, but I don't know what to wish for. And I have snow up my back. I break off branches from the holy bushes and a few sprigs of pine and carry them inside. I tie them together with red yarn and set them on the fireplace mantel and the dining room table. It doesn't look as nice as when the lady on TV did it, but it makes the place seem better. I still wish we could borrow a kid for a few days. We sleep until noon on Christmas. I give Mom a black sweater and Dad a CD with 60s hits. They give me a handful of gift certificates, a TV for my room, ice skates, and a sketch pad with charcoal pencils. They say they have noticed me drawing. I almost tell them right there and then. Tears flood my eyes. They noticed I've been trying to draw. They noticed. I try to swallow the snowball in my throat. This isn't going to be easy. I'm sure they suspect I was at the party. Maybe they even heard me calling the cops. But I want to tell them everything as we sit there by our plastic Christmas tree while Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer video plays. I wipe my eyes. They wait with unsure smiles. The snowball grows larger. When I snuck home that night, they weren't in the house. Both cars were gone. I was supposed to have been Rachel's all night long, but they weren't expecting me, that's for sure. I showered until the hot water was gone, and then I crawled into bed and did not sleep. Mom pulled in around 2 a.m., Dad just before sunup. They had not been together. What had they been doing? I thought I knew. How can I talk to them about that night? How can I start? Rudolph sets out on his ice floe. I'm independent, he declares. Dad looks at his watch. Mom stuffs the wrapping paper into her garbage bag. They leave the room. I am still sitting on the floor, holding the paper and charcoals. I didn't even say thank you. I had 2 days of freedom before my parents decided I was not going to lounge around the house all vacation. I have to go to work with them. I'm not legally old enough to work, but they don't care. I spend the weekend at Mom's store, dealing with all the merchandise brought back by grumpy people. Did anyone in Syracuse get what they wanted for Christmas? Sure doesn't seem like it. Since I'm underage, Mom sticks me in the basement stockroom. I'm supposed to refold the shirts, sticking them with 11 pins. The other employees watch me like I'm a rat, like my mother has sent me to the basement to spy on them. I fold a few shirts, then kick back and take out a book. They relax. I am one of them. I don't want to be there either. Mom obviously knows I did squat, but she doesn't say anything in the car. We don't leave until way after dark because she has so much work to do. Sales have sucked. She didn't get anywhere near the goal she set. Layoffs are coming. We stop at a traffic light. Mom closes her eyes. Her skin is a flat gray color, like underwear washed so many times it's about to fall apart. I feel bad that I didn't fold more shirts for her. The next day they sent me to Dad's. He sells some kind of insurance, but I don't know how or why. He sets up a card table for me in his office. My job is to put calendars into envelopes, seal them up, and stick on mailing labels. He sits at his desk and talks to buddies on the phone. He gets to work with his feet up. He gets to laugh with his friends on the phone. He gets to call out for lunch. I think he deserves to be in the basement folding shirts and helping my mother. I deserve to be watching cable or taking a nap or even going to Heather's house. By lunchtime, my stomach boils with anger. Dad's secretary says something nice to me when she drops off my lunch, but I don't answer her. I glare daggers at the back of my father's head. Angry, angry, angry. I have another 1,000,000 envelopes to close. I run my tongue over the gross, gummy envelope flap. The sharp edge of the flap cuts my tongue. I taste my blood. Its face suddenly pops up in my mind. All the anger whistles out of me like I'm a pop balloon. Dad is really pissed when he sees how many calendars I bled on. He mentions the need for professional help. I am actually grateful to go back to school. Now that there are 2 feet of snow on the ground, the phys ed teachers have let us have class inside. They keep the gym at about 40 degrees because a little cool air never hurt anyone. Easy for them to say, they wear sweatpants. The first inside sport is basketball. Mrs. Connors teaches us how to throw foul shots. I step up to the line, bounce the ball twice, and put it through the net. Miss Connors tells me to do it again, and again. She keeps bouncing balls my way, and I keep putting them up. Swish, swish, swish. 42 shots later, my arms wobble and I miss one. By that time, the entire class is gathered around and is watching. Nicole is just about bursting. You have to join the team, she shouts. Mrs. Connors, meet me back here during activity period. You are going places with that arm. Me. It is a sad and downtrodden Mrs. Connors who meets me there hours later. She holds my current grades by 2 fingers. D, C, B minus, D, C minus, C, A. No basketball team for me because the A was in art, so my GPA is a whopping 1.7. Ms. Connors did not win a lacrosse scholarship by being demure or hesitant. She times me in wind sprints, then puts me back on the line to shoot. Ms. Connors, try an outside shot, bank it off the board. Have you thought about a tutor? Nice shot, it's those D's, those are killing you. Try a layup, that needs work. I could maybe do something about the social grades, but your English teacher's impossible. She hates sports. Do you have a hook shot? I just do what I'm told. If I felt like talking, I would explain that she couldn't pay me enough to play on our basketball team. All that running, sweating, getting knocked around by genetic mutants? I don't think so. Now, if basketball had a designated foul shot shooter, maybe I'd consider. The other team fouls you, you get to pay them back. Boom. But that's not how the way it works, in basketball or in life. Ms. Connor looks so eager. I like the sensation of succeeding brilliantly at something, even if it is just thunking in foul shots one after another. I'll let her dream a few more minutes. The boys' varsity team dribbles in. Their record is 0-5. Go Wombats. Basketball pole, a.k.a. Brendan Keller, the one who contributed to my mashed potato and gravy humiliation on the first day of school, stands under the basket. The other guys run drills and pass it into him. Brendan reaches up a skinny octopus tentacle and casually drops the ball through the hoop. Our boys are unbeatable as long as they are the only team on the floor. The boys' coach barks something I don't understand, and the team lines up behind basketball pole for 3-throw practice. He dribbles, bounce, 2, 3, he shoots. Brick, bounce, 2, 3, brick, brick, brick. Can't sink a shot from the line to save his skinny neck. Ms. Connors talks to the boys' coach while I watch the rest of the team hit a sorry 30%. Then she blows a whistle and waves me over. The boys clear out the way and I take my place on the line. Show 'em, commands Miss Connors. Train seal me, bounce, bounce, up, swish, again and again and again until the guys stop bouncing and everyone is watching. Ms. Connors and basketball coach talk serious, frown talk, arms on hips, biceps flexing. The boys stare at me. Visitor from the planet foul shot. Who is this girl? Ms. Connors punches coach in the arm. Coach punches Miss Connors in the arm. They offer me a deal. If I volunteer to teach the basketball pole how to swish a foul shot, I will get an automatic A in gym. I shrug my shoulders and they grin. I couldn't say no. I couldn't say anything. I just won't show up. Our art room is blooming like a museum full of O'Keeffe's, Van Goghs, and that French guy who painted flowers with tiny dots. Mr. Freeman is the Vogue teacher of the moment. There are rumors that he'll be teacher of the year in the yearbook. His room is cool central. He keeps the radio on. We are allowed to eat as long as we work. He bounced a couple of slackers who confuse freedom with no rules, so the rest of us don't make waves. It is too much fun to give up. The room is full of painters, sculptors, and sketchers during activity period, and some kids stay there until the late bus arrives are ready to roll. Until the late buses are ready to roll. Mr. Freeman's painting is coming along great. Some newspaper guy heard about it and wrote an article. The article claimed Mr. Freeman is a gifted genius who has devoted his life to education. A color picture of the work in progress accompanied to the article. Someone said a few school board members recognized themselves. I bet they sue him. I wish Mr. Freeman would put a tree in his masterpiece. I can't figure out how to make mine look real. I have already ruined 6 linoleum blocks. I can see it in my head. A strong old oak tree with a wide scarred trunk and thousands of leaves reaching to the sun. There's a tree in front of my house just like it. I can feel the wind blow and hear the mockingbird whistling on the way back to her nest. But when I try to carve it, it looks like a dead tree. Toothpicks, a child's drawing. I can't bring it to life. I'd love to give it up, quit, but I can't think of anything else to do, so I keep chipping away at it. Principal stormed in yesterday, smelling pleasure. His mustache moved up and down, a radar sweep for all things unruly. An unseen hand turned off the radio as he crossed the threshold, and bags of potato chips vanished, leaving the faint scent of salt to mix with vermilion oil paint and wet clay. He scanned the room for merriment, found only bowed heads, graceful pencils, dipping brushes. Mr. Freeman touched up the dark roots on the head of a lady school board member, and asked if Principal needed help. Principal stalked out of the room in the direction of the human wastes smoking haven. Maybe I'll be an artist if I grow up. Heather left a note in my locker begging me to go to her house after school. She's in trouble. She's not meeting Martha's standards. She sobs out the story in her room. I listen and pick lint balls off my sweater. The Marthas held a craft meeting to make Valentine's pillows for little kids who are in the hospital. Meg and Emily sewed 3 sides of the pillows, while the others stuffed, stitched, and glued on hearts and teddy bears. Heather was in charge of hearts. She was all flustered because a few of the Marthas didn't like her outfit. They yelled at her for gluing hearts crooked. Then the top of her glue bottle came off and completely ruined a pillow. At this point in the story, she throws a doll across the room. I moved the nail polish out of her reach. Meg demoted Heather to pillow stuffing. Once the pillow production line was again rolling smoothly, the meetings began. Topic: the canned food drive. The senior Marthas are in charge of delivering the food to the needy, with a newspaper photographer present. And meeting with the principal to coordinate whatever needs coordinating. I zone out. She talks about who's in charge of classroom captains and who's in charge of publicity, and I don't know what all. I don't come back to earth until Heather says, I knew you wouldn't mind, Mel. Me. What? Heather. I knew you wouldn't mind helping. I think Emily did it on purpose. She doesn't like me, and I was going to ask you to help. Then say I did it all by myself. But that would have been lying. And besides, they would have stuck me with all the poster work for the rest of the year. So I said I have a friend who is really artistic and community-oriented, and could she help with the posters? Me. Who? Heather. Laughing now, but I still hold on to the nail polish. You silly. You draw better than me and you have plenty of time. Please say you'll do it. Maybe they'll ask you to join too once they see how talented you are. Please. Whipped cream, cherry, chopped nuts, and cherry on top, please. If I screw this up, I know they'll blacklist me, and then I'll never be part of any of the good groups. How could I say no? Our biology classes graduated from fruit to frogs. We were scheduled to do the frog unit in April, but the frog company delivered our victims on January 14th. Pickled frogs have a way of disappearing from the storage closet, so today Mrs. Keene armed us with knives and told us not to gag. David Petrakis, my lab partner, is thrilled. Anatomy at last. There are lists to memorize. The hopping bones connected to the jumping bone, the ribbit bones connected to the fly-catching bone. He seriously talks about wearing one of those doctor masks over his face while we operate. He thinks it would be good practice. The room does not smell like apple. It smells like frog juice, a cross between a nursing home and potato salad. The back row pays attention. Cutting frogs is cool. Our frog lies on her back, waiting for Prince to come and princify her with a smooch. I stand over her with my knife. Mrs. Keene's voice fades to a mosquito whine. My throat closes off. It is hard to breathe. I put up my hand to steady myself against the table. David pins her froggy hands to the dissection tray. He spreads her froggy legs and pins her froggy feet. I have to slice open her belly. She doesn't say a word. She is already dead. A scream starts in my gut. I can feel the cut, smell the dirt, leaves in my hair. I don't remember passing out. David says I hit my head on the edge of the table on my way down. The nurse calls my mom because I need stitches. The doctor stares into the back of my eyes with a bright light. Can she read the thoughts hidden in there? If she can, what will she do? Call the cops? Send me to the nut house? Do I want her to? I just want to sleep. The whole point of not talking about it, of silencing the memory, is to make it go away. It won't. I'll need brain surgery to cut it out of my head. Maybe I should wait until David Petrakis is a doctor and let him do it. Heather has landed a modeling job at a department store in the mall. She says she was buying socks with her mother the week after her braces came off, and some lady asked her if she modeled. I suspect the fact that her dad works for the mall management company had something to do with it. The modeling gig is paying off in major Heather points, Martha points. They all want to be Heather's new best friend, but she asked me to go with her for the bathing suit shoot. I think she's afraid to screw up in front of them. Heather's mother drives us. She asks if I want to be a model. Heather says I am too shy. I look at her mother's eyes watching me in the rearview mirror and hide my mouth with my fingers. The scabs on my lips are especially gross in that little rectangle mirror. Of course I want to be a model. I want to paint my eyelids gold. I saw that on a magazine cover and it looked amazing. Turn the model into a sexy alien that everyone would look at but nobody dared touch. I like cheeseburgers too much to be a model. Heather has stopped eating and complains about fluid retention. She should worry more about brain retention, the way she's dieting her gray matter. At last check, she's wearing a size 1.5, and she just has to get down to a size 1. The photo shoot is in a building cold enough to store ice. Heather looks like our Thanksgiving turkey wearing a blue bikini. Her goosebumps are bigger than her boobs. I'm shivering, and I'm wearing my ski jacket and a wool sweater. The photographer turns up the radio and starts bossing the girl around. Heather totally gets into it. She throws her head back, stares at the camera, flashes her teeth. The photographer keeps saying, sexy, sexy, very cute. Look this way. Sexy. Think beach. Think boys. It creeps me out. Heather sneezes in the middle of a group pose and her mother runs it with a tissue. It must be catching. My throat is killing me. I want a nap. I don't buy the gold eyeshadow, but I do pick up a bottle of Black Death nail polish. It's gloomy, with squiggly lines of red in it. My nails are bitten to the bleeding point, so it will look natural. I need to get a shirt that matches. Something in a tubercular gray. Mr. Stedman won't give up. He is determined to prove once and for all that algebra is something we will use for the rest of our lives. If he succeeds, I think they should give him the Teacher of the Century Award and a 2-week vacation in Hawaii, all expenses paid. He comes to class every day with a new real-life application. It is sweet that he cares about algebra enough and his students to want him to bring them together. He's like a grandfather who wants to fix up 2 young kids that he just knows would make a great couple. Only the kids have nothing in common and they hate each other. Today's application has something to do with buying guppies at the pet store and calculating how many guppies you could breed if you wanted to go into the guppy business. Once the guppies turn into X's and Y's, my contacts fog. Class ends in a debate between the animal rights activists, who say it is immoral to own fish, and the red-blooded capitalists, who know lots of better ways to make money than investing in fish than eat their young. I watch the snow falling outside. Hairwoman is torturing us with essays. Do English teachers spend their vacations dreaming up these things? The first essay this semester was a dud. Why America is Great in 500 words. She gave us 3 weeks. Only Tiffany Wilson had turned it in on time. But the assignment was not a complete failure. Hairwoman runs the drama club, and she recruited several new members based on their performances as to why they needed an extension. She has a warped sense of humor, as well as a demented beautician. The next essay was supposed to be fictional. The best lost homework excuse ever in 500 words. We had no one late. We had one night, no one was late. But now Hairwoman is on a roll. How I would change high school. Lower the driving age to 14. The perfect job. Her topics are fun, but she keeps cranking them out, one after the next. First, she broke our spirits by overwhelming us with work we couldn't really complain about because the topics are the kind of things we talk about all the time. Recently, she started sneaking grammar, shudder, into the classroom. One day we worked on verb tenses. I surfed the net. I surfed the net. I was surfing the net. Then, lively adjectives. Does it sound better to say, Nicole's old lacrosse stick hit me in the head? Or, Nicole's barf-yellowed, gnarled, blood-stained lacrosse stick hit me on the head? She even tried to teach us the difference between active voice, I snarfed the Oreos, and passive voice, the Oreos got snarfed. Words are hard work. I hope they send Hairwoman to a conference or something. I'm ready to help pay for a sub. I work on Heather's posters for 2 weeks. I try to draw them in the art room, but too many people watch me. It is quiet in my closet, and the markers smell good. I could stay here forever. Bring a can, save a life. Heather told me to be direct. It is the only way to get what we want. I draw posters of basketball players shooting cans through a hoop. They demonstrate very good form. Heather has another modeling job. Tennis clothes, I think. She asked me to hang the posters for her. I actually don't mind. It's nice having kids see me do something good. Might help my reputation. I'm hanging a poster outside the metal shop room when it creeps up. Little flecks of metal slice through my veins. It whispers to me. Fresh meat. That's what it whispers. It found me again. I thought I could ignore it. There are 400 other freshmen in here, 200 female, plus all the other grades, but he whispers to me. I can smell him over the noise of my metal shop, and I drop my poster in the masking cape, and I want to throw up. And I can smell him, and I run, and he remembers, and he knows. He whispers in my ear. I lie to Heather about the masking tape and say I put it back in the supply box. My guidance counselor calls Mom at the store to pave the way for my report card. Must remember to send her a thank you note. By the time we eat dinner, the battle is roaring at full pitch. Grades, blah, blah, blah. Attitude, blah, blah, blah. Help around the house, blah, blah, blah. Not a kid anymore, blah, blah, blah. I watch the eruptions. Mount Dad, long dormant, now considered armed and dangerous. Mount St. Mom, oozing lava, spitting flame. Warn the villagers to run into the sea. Behind my eyes, I conjugate irregular Spanish verbs. A minor blizzard blows outside. The weather lady says it's a lake effect storm. The wind from Canada sucks up water from Lake Ontario, runs it through the freeze machine, and dumps it on Syracuse. I can feel the wind fighting to break through our storm windows. I want the snow to bury our house. They keep asking questions like, what is wrong with you? And, do you think this is cute? How can I answer? I don't have to. They don't want to hear anything I have to say. They ground me into the second coming. I have to come straight home after school unless Mom arranges for me to meet with a teacher. I can't go to Heather's. They are going to disconnect the cable. Don't think they'll follow through on that one. I did my homework and show it to them like a good little girl. When they send me to bed, I write a runaway note and leave it on my desk. Mom finds me sleeping in my bedroom closet. She hands me a pillow and closes the door again. No more blah blahs. I open up a paperclip and scratch it on the inside of my left wrist. Pitiful. If a suicide attempt is a cry for help, then what is this? A whimper? A peep? I draw little window cracks of blood, etching line after line until it stops hurting. It looks like I arm wrestled a rose bush. Mom sees the wrist at breakfast. Mom, I don't have time for this, Melinda. Me. She says suicide is for cowards. This is an ugly McNasty mom side. She bought a book about it. Tough love, sour sugar, barbed velvet, silent talk. She leaves the book on the back of the toilet to educate me. She has figured out that I don't say too much. It bugs her. Lunch with Heather starts cold. Since winter break, she has been sitting at the fringe of the Martha table, and I eat on the other side of her. I can tell something is up as soon as I walk in. All the Marthas are wearing matching outfits. Navy corduroy miniskirts, striped tops, and clear plastic purses. They must have gone shopping together. Heather doesn't match. They hadn't invited her. She is too cool to be nervous about this. I am nervous for her. I take an enormous bite of my PBJ and try not to choke. They wait until she has a mouthful of cottage cheese. Siobhan puts a can of beets on the table. Siobhan, what's this? Heather, swallowing. It's a can of beets. Siobhan, no duh, but we found an entire bag of beets in the collection closet. They must have come from you. Heather, a neighbor gave them to me. They're beets. People eat them. What's the problem? The rest of the Marthas sigh on cue. Apparently beets are not good enough. Real Marthas only collect food that they like to eat, like cranberry sauce, dolphin-safe tuna, or baby peas. I can see Heather dig her nails into her palms under the table. The peanut butter molds to the roof of my mouth like a retainer. Siobhan, that's not all. Your numbers are abysmal. Heather, what numbers? Siobhan, your can quota. You aren't carrying your weight. You aren't contributing. Heather, we've only been doing this for a week. I know I'll get more. Emily, it's not just the can quota. Your posters are ridiculous. My little brother could have done a better job. It's no wonder no one wants to help us. You've turned this project into a joke. Emily slides her tray across to Heather. Heather gets up without a word and clears it away. Traitor. She isn't going to stick up for my posters. The peanut butter in my mouth hardens. Siobhan pokes Emily and looks at the door. Siobhan, it's him. Andy Evans just walked in. I think he's looking for you, Em. I turn around. They are talking about it. Andy. Andy Evans. Short, stabby name. Andy Evans, who strolls in carrying a takeout bag from Taco Bell. He offers the cafeteria monitor a burrito. Emily and Siobhan giggle. Heather returns, her smile back in place, and asks if Andy is as bad as everyone says. Emily blushes the color of canned beans. Siobhan, it's just a rumor. Emily, fact, he's gorgeous. Fact, he's rich. Fact, he's just the eatsiest bit dangerous Andy called me last night. Siobhan, Rumor, he sleeps with anything. The peanut butter locks my jaws closed. Emily, I don't believe it. Rumors are spread by jealous people. Hi, Andy. Did you bring enough lunch for everyone? It feels like the Prince of Darkness has swept his cloak over the table. The lights dim. I shiver. Andy stands behind me to flirt with Emily. I lean into the table to stay as far away from him as I can. The table saws me in half. Emily's mouth moves, the fluorescent lights glittering on her teeth. The other girls scooch towards Emily to soak up her attractiveness rays. Andy must be talking too. I can feel deep vibrations in my backbone, like a thudding speaker. I can't hear the words. He twirls my ponytail in his fingers. Emily's eyes narrow. I mumble something idiotic and run for the bathroom. I heave lunch into the toilet, then wash my face with the ice water that comes out of the hot faucet. Heather does not come looking for me. The cement slab sky hangs inches above our heads. Which direction is east? It's been so long since I've seen the sun, I can't remember. Turtlenecks creep out of bottom drawers. Turtle faces pull back into winter clothes. We won't see some kids until spring. Mr. Freeman is in trouble, big time. He gave up paperwork when the school board X'd out his supply budget. They have caught up with him. Teachers just handed in the second period marking grades, and Mr. Freeman gave out 210 A's. Someone smelled a rat. Probably the office secretary. I wonder if they called him down to principal's office and put this on his permanent record. He has stopped working on his canvas. The painting we all thought was going to be this awesome, earth-shattering piece of art that would be auctioned for $1 million. The art room is cold. Mr. Freeman's face a shade of gray-purple. If he wasn't so depressed, I'd ask him what the name of that color is. He just sits on a stool, a blue broken cricket husk. No one talks to him. We blow on our fingers to warm them up and sculpt or draw or paint or sketch or, in my case, carve. I start a new linoleum block. My last tree looked like it had died from some fungal infection. Not the effect I wanted at all. The cold makes the linoleum stiffer than usual. I dig the chisel into the block and push, trying to follow the line of a tree trunk. I follow the line of my thumb instead and gash myself. I swear and stick my thumb in my mouth. Everyone looks at me, so I take it out again. Mr. Freeman hurries over with a box of Kleenex. It isn't a deep cut, and I shake my head when he asks me if I want to go to the nurse's office. He washes my chisel off in the sink and puts bleach on it, some sort of AIDS regulation. When it is germ-free and dry, he carries it back towards my table, but stops in front of my canvas. He hasn't finished painting. The bottom right corner is empty. The prisoners' faces are menacing. You can't take your eyes off them. I wouldn't want a painting like that hanging over my couch. It looks like it could come alive at night. Mr. Freeman steps back, as if he had just seen something new in his own picture. He slices the canvas with my chisel, ruining it with a long ripping sound that makes the entire class gasp. My report card. Attitude, D. Lunch, C. Clothes, C-. Social studies, D. Biology, B. English, C-. Spanish, C-. Algebra, C-. Gym, C-. Art, A. You guys are fantastic. What a section. I'll see you soon.